Ladies and gentlemen, we now direct your attention to Commissioner Kuhn's box, situated at the home plate side of the Reds dugout, where the ceremonial first pitch will be thrown out by the former general manager of the Cincinnati Reds and the president emeritus of the National League, Warren Giles.
Johnny Bench shaking hands with Warren Giles. There's the Commissioner, Bowie Kuhn, and the man in the gray suit is Julian Goodman, the chairman of the board of the National Broadcasting Company. Bill Salatich of the president of Gillette right alongside of him. They got pretty good seats tonight. Joe Cronin, who received a standing ovation in Boston with his wife Mildred. I've seen that congressman with the plaid jacket. That's Mendel Davis of South Carolina. He was the captain of the Democratic team in the annual congressional game. And there's Hank Aaron, not a bad hitter. Henry Aaron sitting here tonight in the commissioner's box enjoying the ball game. Baseball's all-time great hitter. The Reds go on the field getting a roar, as they should. They had a club record this year, 108 games, breaking an old mark of the 1970 team. And also, they had the best road record in the history of the National League this year. Home record, winning 64 and losing just 17. They are really hard to beat here. On the other hand, the Red Sox have the best road record in the American League, winning 48 and losing just 31. Gary Nolan, he was washed up. One man saved him. That was the president of the Cincinnati Reds, Bob Housen. He didn't pitch the year before last, then last year again. Finally, they decided to operate on him, Tony. He had a calcium spur removed by Dr. Job, the Dodger orthopedic man, in back of his right shoulder, and he came back to win 15 games.
Quite a comeback. Was in the minor leagues last year, did not have a decision. Sparky Anderson, his manager, we talked to him before the ball game. We asked him to tell us a little bit about Gary Nolan, his starting pitcher for game number 3 in Cincinnati.
Well, Tony, let me tell you this here now. When I left Thousand Oaks on February 20th, I didn't even consider Gary on our roster. He wasn't even figured of one of the pitchers. He just came along as the spring went along. Larry Starr, Larry Shepard, and I would say Gary Nolan's courage brought him back. That is the whole answer in a nutshell. He will win 20 or more games for Cincinnati in 1976. In 1975, it's a great miracle.
Gary Nolan this year won 15 and lost 9. He's still only 27 years old. He broke in as a youngster here, was an amazing pitcher right from the start until the shoulder miseries got him. He is not a strikeout pitcher, but has outstanding control, Marty, right?
Certainly does, Kurt. He walked only 29 batters during the course of the year, and 5 of those walks were intentional walks. He's on the black outside and on the black inside.
All right. In other words, he hits those corners and moves that ball around. He's facing Cecil Cooper, who loves to go after that first pitch and a fastball, and he ripped the foul back out of play. Cooper's had 1 hit and 8 times up so far. He's had 1 RBI. It'll be Cooper, Doyle, Yastrzemski. 3 left-handers in a row for the Red Sox facing a right-hander. The outfield is around toward right for Cooper. He's a pull hitter. He hits a curveball down to first. Perez has it. The race to the bag, and there's 1 down. Here you'll notice the outfielders are going to be playing deeper and in Fenway Park. Well, one reason, of course, the wind was blowing in Fenway Park. Here you have to play deeper because if the ball hits on a hop, it'll bounce over your head. And that's one of the dangers of this artificial surface. It's very hard, and the infielders play deeper, too.
Also got to protect those alleys in the outfield, Kurt. Ball scoots out there, gets by, it could be a triple.
Denny Doyle's had 3 hits and 7 times. He popped the foul back out of play. I think they've told him to go up there and hit that first pitch. This guy's around the plate. Don't get behind on him. And the first 2 batters for the Red Sox have been first ball hitters. 0-1 to Doyle. 1 out, nobody on. We're just underway. Yastrzemski's on deck, and then Carlton Fisk. Nolan works with a fastball, a curve, a changeup. Ground ball to Perez. There he is again. Same play, same spot, 2 down. And both of them bounced out on curveballs.
First 2 Red Sox. Nolan's the kind of pitcher, correct me if I'm wrong, Marty, he has a reputation as a breaking ball pitcher, and yet he gets a lot of hitters out with fastballs. He did that against Pittsburgh when he was overshadowed by Candelaria in that great performance.
That's right, Tony, and looking back over the season, he may well have had his best fastball all year against the game that you mentioned in Pittsburgh.
And yet he didn't get much credit because a youngster by the name of Candelaria struck out 14. Nolan allowed only 2 runs in that game. Yastrzemski hits a high hopper to Joe Morgan. It's going to be a quick 1, 2, 3 inning. And the score at the end of the first half inning, 0-0. The Reds coming to bat. 30-year-old Richard Charles Wise coming back this year to win 19 after winning only 3 last year. And this ballpark is no stranger to him. In fact, he loves to pitch here. He's done very well. He has pitched a no-hit game against the Reds in this ballpark, and he's pitched a one-hitter here. And the first man he faces, Pete Rose, was talking about that no-hit game. That was back in '71 on June 23rd, and Rose said, man, he never should have had a no-hitter. The first ball up, I beat out to the shortstop. The next 2, I lined out. But he said he came up with a no-hitter, and I'll give him credit. He had 2 home runs in that game, winning 4-0. Rick Wise pitched a week ago. He won the final game of the American League playoffs, beating Oakland. He was a winning pitcher. He had some problems late in the season, but he came back strong against the defending world champion, the A's. He was traded by the Cardinals along with outfielder Bernie Carbo for outfielder Reggie Smith and pitcher Ken Tatum after the '73 season. Pete Rose is 2 out of 8. Rose, Griffey, and Morgan, they've changed the batting order. They've moved Griffey up to number 2 to get his speed up there along with Morgan. Morgan will drop from 2 to 3. Wise is primarily a fastball slider. He throws a lot of high stuff. He's not a ground ball pitcher. The first pitch is high to Rose, a ball. Pete Rose, will he get those 3,000 hits? I wouldn't doubt it. He has over 2,500 now. Takes great care of himself. Durable. He should have 3 or 4 more years. A ground ball to Doyle. The Red Sox second baseman puts him away, and there's 1 down. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. Is intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, description, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Commissioner of Baseball is prohibited. Major League Baseball has the right of approval of the announcers for this event. Now we can play ball. Ken Griffey up. Griffey, 2 out of 7. 1 RBI. He got a big one. A big RBI for the Reds to give them a split in Boston when he doubled the left center in the 9th inning. Strike. Griffey beat out over 38 infield hits this year. He must hit a lot of those high choppers, huh, Marty?
He does, Kurt. And this ballpark with the artificial surface and the others around the National League are really tailor-made for him.
Of course, the National League has mostly artificial surfaces. The Red Sox played at only 2 in the American League, Kansas City and Chicago's infield. The outfield's natural grass. 1 ball, 1 strike to Griffey. He has been clocked going to first base in 3.5. That one nearly to the backstop. Same outfield for the Red Sox. Yastrzemski in left, Lynn in center, Evans in right. Sparky Anderson has called it the best defensive outfield one of his teams has ever faced. They're all around, getting to the ball, catching it, and then throwing it accurately. The 2-1 pitch. Foul ball. Foul tip into the mitt of Carlton Fisk. The infield is Petroselli at third, Burleson at short, Doyle at second, Cooper at first. Fisk receiving the deliveries of Rick Wise.
Kurt, Sparky did qualify that about this outfield. He did say, I'd like to see them play, or I'm going to have to see them play on artificial surface, where he thinks raw speed is so important.
1 out, nobody on. We have no score in the last of the first inning. Fouled away. Count 2-2 to Ken Griffey. Perez was kidding him around the batting cage tonight. I want to see you do something. I did more than you did in Boston. So I moved him 2 bases. You only moved him 1.
that kind of banner sound familiar to you, Marty, being around that dugout and clubhouse of the Reds all year long?
Really does, Tony. They give Griffey a hard time referring to him as a punch and Judy hitter, and he said if he can hit 305 every year, he'll take it.
I don't blame you. 3-2 was Pete Rose, whose ambition was to become the first singles hitter to make $100,000 a year, and he did it. 1 out, nobody on. We have a full count to Ken Griffey. Griffey's plate is right now a pull hitter about 2 steps to right. Petroselli's backed up on a 3-2 count. Burleson's in a couple of steps, so against the speed of Griffey. Bounding ball to second baseman Doyle. And we have 2 down. So the first 3 men up for the Red Sox all grounded out, and the first 2 men up for the Reds have bounced out. Here's little Joe Morgan. He's had 2 hits in 7 times. He said, I want to, you know, he's got a great personality. Came over and he said, I want to thank you. My wife told me about comparing me to Sugar Ray Robinson, pound for pound. Sugar Ray, probably the greatest fighter of all time. I know Muhammad Ali would argue that. But I said pound for pound last Saturday. Here was the strongest player in the majors. He's little, but he knocked in 94 runs and hit 17 homers. And does everything else. 0-1. Perez, the big right-handed slugger on deck. 2 down, nobody on, no score. That one hitter that Rick Wise pitched, Joe Morgan spoiled it on June 13th with a line drive hit, 2 out of the 9th inning. Wise winning that one 8-0 in a Cardinal uniform. Strike on the inside corner. Good pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Wise, like Gary Nolan, has pretty good control. He likes to spot the fastball. His best pitch probably is his slider. He'll throw an off-speed curveball on occasion.
I think it's a tougher lineup with Morgan hitting third. Got more speed up on top, and also Morgan can knock in runs and take some heat off Perez and bench behind him. There's a high fly in the left center. Fred Lynn drifting back, waiting. 3 up, 3 down for Cincinnati. At the end of the first inning, it's 0-0. They had 500,000 ticket applications for the World Series here in Cincinnati, about the same in Boston. 2 truly outstanding baseball franchises. Not just city teams, but area teams. They come from Kentucky, Ohio. We saw all the license plates around all over the Midwest here to watch this club, and up in Boston, it's a New England team. Indiana, West Virginia, big fans also of the Reds. Carlton Fisk looks at a strike, and Nolan's in that strike zone with that first pitch. Fisk has had 1 hit in 6 times. He's knocked in 2 runs. Lynn, a left-hander on deck, and then Petroselli. That's the curveball of Gary Nolan. Nolan's been an outstanding pitcher for the Reds, but he's not had much luck in the World Series. He's made 4 previous World Series starts, no wins, 2 losses, and a high earned run average of 5.40. There's a blast deep left. Forget about it. It's gone. A home run for Carlton Fisk. Well, they ought to have the green wall out there.
Ooh, that was out of anywhere. Grand Canyon. He got every last bit of that one. Looked like a fastball inside part of the plate, about belt high. They're jumping on him. They know he's got good control. Let's look at Fisk's swing again. Bench appeared to be signaling that he wanted the ball inside, maybe off the strike zone. Belt high, and he knew it's gone. Look at Fisk and Johnny look. Foster barely took a look and saw it go, well, halfway up in that first deck there.
What do they call it? The heart of the plate, Marty?
That's right, Kurt. And I'll tell you, for Gary Nolan to be successful, he cannot pitch up in that area.
Here's Fred Lynn, who's had 2 hits in 8 times. They're still buzzing about that tremendous home run by Carlton Fisk, the first homer of this 75 series. Boston leading 1-0. A high fly by Lynn in the left center. Geronimo trotting in for it. 1 away. So in the first inning, Boston hit the ball on the ground. Second inning, they're up in the air. Rico Petroselli, the leading hitter in this series, along with Rick Burleson. Each has had 4 hits in 7 times up. Petroselli is the RBI king 3 RBIs. Neither club has really worn the ball out. There's a fastball for a called strike. 0-1. So little Perry Como drops behind on the count. 1-0 Boston. He hits a foul ball in back of the Red Sox dugout into the seats.
Can he sing?
No, he can't sing a lick, but that's what we used to call him when he came up. Brooklyn, New York. Folks ran a butcher shop there. Great Yankee fan, signed with the Red Sox. 0-2.
They play Rico more to pull than anybody else on this Red Sox team, even Carlton Fisk. Concepcion is well over in the hole and deep.
1 out, nobody on. 1-0 Red Sox. That pitch is high, a ball, 2 strikes to Rico Petrocelli. A right-handed batter, Dwight Evans on deck. There's your defensive setup. And look at Concepcion over there in the hole, and Morgan shading second.
With 2 strikes, David moved a couple of steps towards second.
Curveball hit down in the hole, base hit in the left field. Nolan hung a curve, ahead on the count, 1-2. That's a 5th hit for Petrocelli, Tony.
Here's an example of what artificial surface can do. It just picks up speed, picks up an overspin on the graininess of this artificial surface. Ordinary grass, Concepcion might have had a shot.
Johnny Bench and Sparky Anderson, I thought, gave us a couple of remarkable interviews in Boston last Sunday during the rain. They were very candid. Strike, and you remember in the interview, Johnny Bench said artificial surface should help Boston because they hit a lot of balls in the ground. And we just saw Petrocelli ground that one through. Dwight Evans, 1 out of 6 in this series. 274 hitter for the season. Hits a fly ball, twisting down the right field line. Griffey racing for it and makes the grab right up against the wall. He disappeared out of our view.
That's what Sparky was talking about, raw speed in his outfield. He thinks that Geronimo, and especially Griffey, has more than the Red Sox outfield. He had a long run. He was playing the right center field, which is where Evans hits on occasion.
Fine play by Griffey as he gauged himself and that cushion out there. 2 outs. Petrocelli at first. Rick Burleston's had 4 hits, 7 times up. He's a tough out. Pitch of the strike. Looked like might have been his slider. 0-1. He's knocked in 1 run. He was a very capable hitter against the A's, too, in the American League playoffs. That's a check swing. It's 0-2 to the Rooster, Rick Burleson.
Marty, as I recall, Gary Nolan has an excellent change of pace. In fact, 2 of them, but he threw very few against Pittsburgh. Just 3 or 4, according to the scouting reports Boston has.
Tony, we talked about his fastball in that game. Johnny Bench realized he had an exceptional fastball that night and pretty much went with it. He does, I'll tell you, as far as the National League is concerned, he has possibly, or no doubt, one of the top 2, 3 changes in all of the National League.
The count to Burleson's 0-2. They're playing him to the opposite field. Fisk led off this inning with a homer. The Red Sox are leading 1-0. They have Petrocelli at first, 2 away. The 2-strike delivery teased him with an outside pitch. You talk about control. Listen to this, my friends. This man Nolan walked only 1.2 every 9 innings this year. That is really control. 5 intentional walks in that group. 0-2 to Rick Burleson. The Red Sox pitcher, Rick Wise, due up next in case Burleson gets on. Wise is a good hitting pitcher. Outside, although he hasn't hit in a couple of years. Boy, that was close. Rick Wise. He's got his hitting glasses on. Petrocelli at first, 2 down. 1 ball, 2-strike pitch coming up. There's the changeup. It's beat to shortstop Concepcion. The flip to Morgan. Sides retired. 1 run, 2 hits, no errors, 1 left. At the end of an inning and a half, Boston 1, Cincinnati 0. The umpires assigned to Game 3 of the World Series. Larry Barnett is working the plate. Dick Stello at first. George Maloney of the American League at second. Satch Davison of the National League is the third base umpire. Art France of the American League covering the left field line. And Nick Colosi of the National League is on the right field line. Three powerful right-handed batters come up for the Reds in the last of the second. Perez, Bench, and Foster. Perez looking for his first hit of this series after knocking in 109 runs during the year and batting .282. They're deep and straight away for him. His power to all field. He'll hit a lot of drives into right center. Wise gives him a quick slider for a strike. 0-1. Wise went to high school in Portland, Oregon, graduating from Madison High. Out there in the Rose City, 1-1. And we're getting some action. Pat Darcy, he's been an early warm-up man every game for the Reds. The 1-1 pitch. That one sunk down to him. First pitch is really sunk. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Perez.
Pitching coach Stan Williams watches him very closely. That is Rick Wise. As we look at that last pitch to see if he follows through completely. He has a habit of pulling back before he gets through his full follow-through. He loses his control and his velocity.
A 1-2 pitch. Beat foul. Wise played Little League, Babe Ruth League, and American Legion ball. He began in the Phillies organization back in '63. His 11th season in the majors. He led the Boston staff in victories this year with 19, 1 more than Louis Tiant. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Perez.
Pitching coach Stan Williams watches him very closely. That is Rick Wise. As we look at that last pitch to see if he follows through completely. He has a habit of pulling back before he gets through his full follow-through. He loses his control and his velocity.
A 1-2 pitch. Beat foul. Wise played Little League, Babe Ruth League, and American Legion ball. He began in the Phillies organization back in '63. His 11th season in the majors. He led the Boston staff in victories this year with 19, 1 more than Louis Tiant. It'll be Tiant against Gullett tomorrow night, by the way. The 2 men that opened game 1 of the series. Perez batting, nobody on, nobody out. Poured a fastball, and Perez just a little bit late with it. Johnny Bench waiting. He's had the big hit of this series, I think, so far. That leadoff double to the opposite field in the 9th inning that got the Reds going.
Got to wonder right now, as Darcy warms up, if there's something wrong with Nolan.
I was wondering the same thing.
Pat Darcy, Kurt, you wonder about his warming up so early. Gary Nolan developed tightness in his shoulder that brought about an early ouster in his last start against Pittsburgh, and possibly he could be having the same problem here tonight.
Well, we're trying to check on it. 2-2 is the count to Perez. Fouled away again. Probably the most, well, they've got so many fine men on this team. They're all personable and have a lot of poise, but Perez is probably as popular man as there is on the team, isn't he, Marty?
Kurt, I'd say he's probably the most popular man on this ball club. Great influence on Davey Concepcion and the other Latin Americans on the Reds team.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Perez leading off last of the second. Now the count runs to 3-2. We're going to pause briefly for identification. This is the NBC Television Network. Kurt Gowdy, Tony Kubek, and Marty Brenneman back with you here in Riverfront Stadium. A full count to Tony Perez. Boston ahead, 1-0. Last of the second. There's a drive into left center. Fred Lynn waiting. And we have 1 down. Johnny Bench, 2 hits and 8 times up.
One of the things that they said the outfield, especially for the Red Sox, would have to do here on this artificial surface is move back. It does not appear that Evans nor the center fielder Lynn are back very much. Yastrzemski, of course, is because he doesn't have the wall right behind him, but they're still playing relatively shallow, even for Perez and Bench. It
was interesting as Sparky Anderson commented in Boston that he had his outfield watch the Red Sox outfielders and play on Sunday the same distances as the Red Sox outfielders were playing. Figured that they knew the wind and knew the ballpark. Of course, a lot depends on who's up. If this man's up, you're not too shallow. There's a high drive deep down the left field line. Looks like it's going foul, though. He hits a lot of foul home runs. That didn't reach home run territory. But he gets out in front of the ball. It's 330 down the left field line here. You might have seen when Marty took you around, wanted to talk about. Did you ever mention those meters around here, Marty?
It's never talked about much anymore, Kurt. It did when the stadium initially opened in 1970, but I don't think people really pay much attention to them anymore.
He hit one 100.58 meters, fans. The one-strike delivery. 1 ball, 1 strike to bench. 1 out. The Red Sox are ahead. Carlton Fisk hit a home run. The lead off to second, to left field. And that's the scoring thus far. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
That's that slider. It's his good pitch when he gets it going for him. It's very hard and breaks very quickly. 5-6 inches. If he keeps it outside and a little down, it's tough.
Wise was hurt by home runs this year. He allowed 34 homers. Those are those high pitches. Bounding ball to Petrocelli. He'll have a deep throw. And it's there. Petrocelli's playing a marvelous third. 2 down. He made a stop in the 9th inning the other day. Looked like he had a pair of tweezers.
And he's playing very deeply for Johnny Bench especially. And here's another adjustment that the infielders have to make. They play deeper, and they've got a longer throw. And Bench came close, half a step, almost beat it out.
2 outs. George Foster's had 3 hits in 8 times. He hit the ball in the nose in the first game. I think a couple of hits and lining out. Petrocelli, for a fellow who was always going to retire, has played quite a playoff and World Series so far.
Kurt, our producer Roy Hammerman got in touch with the trainer of Cincinnati, Larry Starr, and Larry Starr says nothing is wrong with Gary Nolan.
All right, 2 down, nobody on. Pat Darcy still warming up, though, in the red bullpen. 1-0, Boston leading Cincinnati. Foster steps out a lot. There's Darcy. Foster's played straight away and fairly deep. 300 season for him with 23 homers. High and away, a ball to George Foster. What a pickup he's been by Cincinnati. They've made some shrewd trades. Not only do they have a flowering farm system, but now and then they make a trade that really pays off for them. That's what you have to do. The Wise trade has paid off for the Red Sox a year later than they thought. They didn't know he'd have a sore arm last year after they got him from the Cardinals. 1 ball, 1 strike, 2 down, nobody on. The Red Sox leading the Reds 1-0. Wise working out of that short stretch. Outside, 2-1 to Foster. Let's check Wise's control this year. He averaged 2.5 walks every 9 innings. And he averaged, that's good, and 5 strikeouts every 9 innings. 2 balls and a strike to George Foster. Fired by the from the Giants. That high fastball riding up on him. For shortstop Frank Duffy and pitcher Vern Giescher. And that was back in May '71 when they made the trade. The Red fans said, "Who is George Foster?" Now they know. 2-2 count. Foster keeps doing that to pitchers, trying to break up their tempo. Foul back. 2 down, nobody on. A 2-2 count to George Foster.
Kurt, I thought Joe Morgan made an interesting observation around the batting cage today. They were asking about them not hitting up in Boston. And he said, it's World Series pressure. He said, it affects us in the way that we are very anxious. We're swinging at pitches that ordinarily we don't during the season. He said, even I did against Lee, a ball that was 2-3 inches off the ground.
3-2 count. Wise at a 3-2 count to Perez. He got Bench out. Now he runs it 3-2 to George Foster. But Dave Concepcion swinging a bat in the on-deck circle. have their first base runner. Foster attempted only 3 steals all year, successful twice. Here's Concepcion coming up. He's had 1 hit in 8 times. He can take the ball deep to right center and to right field. He can pull. Fine all-around shortstop. Came back from a fractured ankle a couple of years ago, and he hasn't lost a half a step. Red Sox leading. They have 1 run, 2 hits. The Reds have no runs, no hits. You just saw the Reds' first base runner, Foster at first. Cooper plays off the bag, a step on him, a holding step off the bag. There he goes. Here's the throw. It's there, and it's through. Foster's up, and he's on the way to third. Looks like the Reds are going to run any time now.
And that was not a bad throw either. It looked like Doyle got over a little too late. I don't know if he was surprised by Foster going. And watch Foster. And watch how slowly Denny Doyle gets over. He took that a little bit on the run. The ball was right on the money. He could have short-hopped it.
Foster winds up at third. Here it is again. Fisk's throw is there in time. It appears here on the rerun. It's low. Looks like it might have partially hit the runner, too. An error's been charged on Carlton Fisk, which allowed Foster to go to third. Well, checking, they say, but I wouldn't think you'd charge Doyle an error in the dirt and everything with that one. Alan Ross shrugs his shoulders, as you never know. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Reds have a runner at third, 2 down. The Red Sox are leading 1-0. A left-handed batter, Geronimo's on deck. We had him swinging at that breaking pitch, that sharp slider breaking away. They have charged Carlton Fisk with an error. Throwing error.
I beg to differ with the 3 official scores.
Well,
I don't.
I thought it hit the runner on the rerun. Can't charge an error to the runner. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Wise is throwing a lot of pitches in this inning. There's Foster at third, 2 down. Charlie Feeney, president of the Baseball Writers Association of America, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Cliff Keene of the Boston Globe, and Bob Hertzel of the Cincinnati Enquirer are the 3 official scores of the game. The 2-2 delivery. Check swing, foul back. Dave Concepcion is the batter here in the last of the second. Sparky Anderson, just 41, despite the silver hair. He was a bat boy for Rod Daydew out of the USC. And Daydew was here tonight, very proud of Fred Lynn and Bill Lynn, who played for him, and Bill Lee. The 2-2 delivery. There's a drive in the right field. Evans is over, and he has it. The side's retired. Evans getting a quick break on that one. No runs, no hits, 1 error, 1 left at the end of 2. 1-0 Boston. Some of the fans around the country have watched all the games of the World Series, and they've seen this Pat Darcy up early. Sparky Anderson, I asked him about it, Marty. He said, I like to have my long relief man up early, warming up in case the starter gets into trouble. He's ready to come on in. And also, a starting pitcher may not have his stuff when he starts the ball game, and we want to be ready with somebody.
I think that's a big thing in Darcy's case, Kurt, because he was a starter for the Reds for most of the season.
Rick Wise, in a strange role, a batter. He used to be one of the best hitting pitchers in the National League. He hits a fly ball in the left field. He's had a career total of 15 lifetime homers, and he flies out to Foster. That's the first time he's been at bat in the last 2 years with a strange situation of one league using a designated hitter and the other league not, and yet playing the World Series in the old conditions. 1 down. The Red Sox pitchers, by the way, the last month took 20 minutes of batting practice every day when they thought, they were in there or had a shot. Until then, they never took any batting practice during the regular season. Cecil Cooper up. He hits a high fly in the shallow left. Out goes Concepcion. On comes Foster. And we have 2 down. Foster one-hands everything.
Here, one of these years, I'd like to see the American League rebel and say, hey, listen, World Series time, you play our rules in our park. What's going on here?
Well, Tony, right now, you're not running baseball. 2 down, nobody on. Denny Doyle up, grounded out. 1-0 on Carlton Fisk home run. That's the Red Sox story as they're leading in the 3rd. Gary Nolan looks sharp this inning. Comes in with a curveball inside. 1-0. Nolan, born in Hurlong, California. Lives in Oroville, California. Fouled away by the little scrapper. The Angels get a player for him, you know, after the season. And I think Harry Dalton is expecting a good one, the way Doyle's come through for the Red Sox. He wants either Fred Lynn or Jim Rice. He won't get him. 2 balls and a strike to Denny Doyle. 2 down, nobody on. And Doyle pops it up. Bench points out to the 3rd baseman, Pete Rose. Pete squeezes it. 3 up, 3 down for the Red Sox. At the end of 2.5, Boston 1, Cincinnati 0. Packed and jammed Riverfront Stadium. We'll watch Cesar Geronimo lead off for Cincinnati in the last of the 3rd. Then the pitcher, Gary Nolan, to the top of the order for Pete Rose. Geronimo is looking for his first hit in postseason competition. He went 0 for 10 against the Pirates, and he's 0 for 4 against the Red Sox pitching. Rick Wise has allowed 1 base runner so far. That was Foster, who walked in the 2nd. The Red Sox had a pair of hits in the 2nd. Fisk led off with a tremendous home run to left, and Petrocelli single. That's been the hitting so far. We haven't seen any raw power in this series yet. Geronimo played as a pull hitter to right. Darrell Johnson, the Red Sox manager, and that's Eddie Popowski. We used to play with the house of David when he was 19, couldn't grow a beard. The pitch, bounding ball to Doyle. High hop to him on the artificial surface. 1 away. Imagine the New England fans who've never watched their club play too much in artificial surface, even when they're on the road in the American League, are amazing at these high hops. The second one, like a Wyoming jackrabbit. They get bigger and bigger with every hop.
You can become a one-handed infielder on this because you get a true hop, although it's a faster hop. You don't have to get in front of every ball.
All right, now you were an infielder. I want to ask you something in a minute. 1 down, nobody on. Gary Nolan up. Rick Wise's pitch is a strike. Nolan is a lifetime National League average as a batter, 147. How much does it change from grass to artificial surface bother you?
Kurt, I had a chance to play exhibition games, the first 3 games in the Astrodome. We were coming north one year, and it is a grainy infield, and the ball picks up a top spin, and you think you're going to get in front of a ball, and the ball will scoot by you at times if you're not used to it. But you always get a true hop. The ball always bounds up to you, which means you can make a little bit better plays if you have to extend yourself. Never scoots.
1 out, nobody on. 2 balls and a strike to Gary Nolan. 1-0. Boston ahead. Last of the 3rd inning. There's a ground ball fielded by Cecil Cooper at first base. Cooper was playing toward the bag, or that one might have slipped into the right field corner. He figured Nolan to swing late. Here's Pete Rose up. Rose has quite a hobby. He has a videotape machine at home. And he came up to me tonight, Marty and Tony, around the batting cage and said, well, I got the tape of the first 2 games of the World Series now. Play it for my grandchildren. He tapes all sorts of sports events, films, and he taped for his home the first 2 games of the World Series in Boston. He'll tape the entire series at home. Pitch of the strike, 0-1. Rose grounded out to second base his first time. He's consistent both sides. He hit .323 right-handed, .315 left-handed. Pounding ball to Doyle again. Look out, bad hop. Doyle got the handle, though. And the Reds go quietly down. 1, 2, 3 in the last of the third. At the end of 3, it's 1-0 Boston. First time Carl Yastrzemski's played in Riverfront Stadium since 1970. And he enjoyed himself. This is against the A's, a 3-time American League batting champ. Back in 1970, Yastrzemski was the most valuable player of the All-Star game. He had 4 hits that night, 4 hits and 6 times up. And he's leading off for the Red Sox in the 4th. Yastrzemski, Fisk, and Lynn. Carl's now made his permanent home in Boca Raton, Florida. Just moved down there. Yeah, you get a little older, you want that heat and that sunshine.
Why were you looking
years
at
old.
How were you looking at us?
That's what I said. Pitches inside a ball to Yastrzemski. He grounded out his first time. The outfield playing him deep and toward right in center and right field, but they know he can slice to left, so they leave a gap in left center. Very quiet game so far. 1-0 Boston. Nolan's fastball is inside. 2-0. This is really the first hitter he's been behind on like this. 2 balls, no strikes to Yastrzemski. Fastball for a strike. 2-1. Carlton, Fisk on deck. Bounding ball to first baseman Perez. Tony again with an unassisted play, his 3rd of the game. And now we've had 5, 6 in a row go down before Gary Nolan. And here's the only man that scored tonight, Carlton Fisk, who pounded a home run to left field in the 2nd inning. That's been it, 1-0. The Red Sox have had 2 hits. The Reds, no hits. Red Sox have committed 1 error that hasn't hurt them so far.
This bat through September for the Red Sox, his Baltimore challenge, was probably the biggest bat in the lineup. He got a lot of big hits, and of course his throwing arm helped a little bit too behind the plate.
Well, they had the great rookie seasons from Rice and Lynn, but the last month, 6 weeks, this man was probably the most valuable player in the club. And what a help he is at Fenway Park. 1 ball, no strikes. Nolan behind. He didn't like that call. 2-0. He got behind Yastrzemski 2-0, but got him out. A left-hander, Fred Lynn, is on deck. This is like a July night here. 81 degrees. That count runs to 3-0 on Fisk. He's trying to keep the ball away from him.
Darrell Johnson pretty good at letting his men pick his pitch. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if Fisk gets his pitch that he might go after it.
He did, and he blasted foul deep down the left field line. He was letting him hit 3-0 in Boston with a short fence, but the wind coming in, and he gave Fisk the green light on 3-0.
Kurt, I've heard it said of Darrell Johnson that he's a conservative manager as we look at him, but we've seen him do some things in the Championship Series and, of course, in the World Series, keeping his base runners going, playing very aggressively on the base paths. Burleson going after a 3-0 pitch.
Johnson played in the '61 World Series for Cincinnati. Fisk is on with a walk. That's the first walk given up by Gary Nolan. Runner on first. Fisk runs well for a catcher. 1 out. Fred Lynn coming up. Lynn came up to USC as a pitcher. They converted him into an outfielder. Lynn, I noticed the last 2 games, Tony, looked like to me he's swinging too hard. He's been uppercutting the ball.
They started pitching him inside, and he looked like he was trying to open up to get out in front to hit the ball, and then they started going away, and he's losing the ball or leaving the ball too soon instead of hitting the ball to left field.
He starts him off with the inside pitch, 1-0. Lynn lives in El Monte, California with his father and wife. They've just told Perez, get off the bag a step or two. This fella can line one down the right field line on you. And he hits it down the line, just foul. Foul by a foot, or else that might have been extra bases in the corner. 1 ball, 1 strike to Freddie Lynn. Fisk going back to first with 1 out, and the Red Sox ahead 1-0.
Lynn, a very smart young hitter. He's learned a lot from Rod Dado, his former coach, but he said his father taught him more, and he's trying to take advantage of that hole between Morgan and Perez. That's why Tony's playing back.
He might be the first player ever to win the Rookie of the Year and the Most Valuable Player of the Year award. There's the hole between Perez and Morgan. The count 1-1. That's a curve that had him fooled. Beautiful slow curve by Gary Nolan.
But I don't know if that's a curve or that changeup he throws that he turns over and drifts away. Let's watch the movement on the ball. It appears to be going away. It's one of the changeups that he turns over. It looks a little bit like a screwball.
It does something. Good pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Fred Lynn. Pitch again. He lines it into right field for a base hit. Fisk is rounding second, heading for third. Griffey's throws coming in. Cut off by Concepcion. Throws to first, and they get Lynn.
Freddie Lynn slipped and fell down. He knew the cutoff was executed. He went around and thought if the ball was thrown over Concepcion's head, he would keep on going. And when he tried to stop on the artificial surface, his feet gave way. He fell down and couldn't get back. Well executed cutoff by the Reds.
The Red Sox made some costly mistakes on the base of Sunday.
Here it is, Kurt. Ken Griffey with a fine arm, and as Tony said, he almost overthrew Concepcion, and Lynn slipping as he rounded first base. A quick throw to Tony Perez, and even though the out call by first base umpire Dick Stello, the Boston first base coach, Johnny Pesky, really a little bit upset about the call.
The Red Sox made some base running mistakes Sunday. They would have had runners on first and third, 1 out. Now it's 2 down. Fisk at third and Petrocelli up. Petrocelli singled his first time. So it's 1 run, 3 hits for the Red Sox. No runs, no hits for the Reds. We're in the top of the 4th inning. Curveball's hit up the middle. Morgan backhanding the ball, makes the play. Great play. Joe Morgan saved a run with that one. No runs. 1 hit, 1 left. We'll have a rerun of that play. The score, 1-0 Boston.
He plants that right foot. A lot of times an infielder will slide going to his right on the dirt, but you can't do it on artificial surface. You've got to break yourself to a halt. He did it so well, and he is as proud of that glove of his as anything in baseball, I think.
Well, he saved a run with that stop up the middle and back a second. And the Reds come up in the last of the 4th, trailing 1-0 with Griffey, Morgan, and Perez the batters. Griffey grounded out to second his first time. Rick Wise has allowed just 1 base runner. He walked Foster in the second. Shea toward right for Griffey. The infield in. Step or 2. Ready to unload in a hurry. There's Petrocelli inside at third. Burleson in about 3 steps at short. And even Doyle's in against a left-handed batter, a step or 2. 1-0 to Griffey. Foul back. 1-1.
Marty, Kurt mentioned earlier the number of infield hits that Ken Griffey got during the season, but he doesn't get a whole lot of bunts, does he?
No, he doesn't, Tony, and he worked on it extensively in spring training and really never seem to be able to come around effectively to bunt the baseball. He had 7 bunts during the course of the season, but of course had the biggest infield hit he had all year long in the 10th inning against Pittsburgh.
He's leading off last of the 4th. 1-1 pitch. That was Wise's breaking delivery, and it was low and inside to him. 2-1. Pat Darcy is still warming up in the Red bullpen, and we're wondering about Gary Nolan. 2 balls and a strike. There's a high fly in the left center. Lynn drawing a beat on it. 1 down. Fred Lynn's had 3 putouts so far. There's Darcy. He's been warming up every inning. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Joe Morgan fly to center. Gets a hand from the Red fans for his sparkling play off the bat of Rico Petrocelli. They don't have to tell Wise keep him off the bases here in this Riverfront Stadium. He flied out his first time. talking to Morgan about base stealing. Strike. He said, I could have stolen 80 or 85 bases this year. I'm not bragging. I'm just stating fact. When we got out in front, I didn't want to pound my body out. I wanted to save it for the postseason. So I didn't try to steal much late in the year. Fouls it back. He says, I don't know how Lou Brock does it, but he doesn't hit the dirt as much as I do going back to first. He says, I slide back a lot, and it starts to take something out of you. And he's right. Can you imagine just diving in that ground night after night, day after day, 3 or 4 times a game? Take a couple of years off your career. 1 out, nobody on. 2 strikes to Joe Morgan. 1-0, Red Sox ahead. Last of the 4th. Swung late. Wise is fast tonight. Darcy now is set down. And all is quiet in the Cincinnati bullpen. .132 walks for Morgan this year. 4th in the league in batting at .327. Threw him an overhand curveball and missed. 1-2. One out, bases empty. The 1-2 pitch. There's a drive hit in the deep center. Back goes Lynn. He's plenty of room. And the rookie grabs it for his 4th put out of the game.
He's a marvel the way he can take his eye completely off the ball, as so many great outfielders have been able to do, and he's got a chance to be a great outfielder, but he just takes his eye off completely, as you saw, picks the ball right back up in there. Well, some just can't do it and never learn.
Yeah, he was, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, you see some come along every now and then, and he was just born to play Major League Baseball. 2 down, nobody on. Tony Perez fly to center his first time up. A high breaking pitch missing. Ball 1. To join us late, Carlton Fisk smashed a home run to left field to lead off the 2nd inning, and that's been it. 1-0 Red Sox. The count is 2-0 in favor of the batter. No hits so far by the Reds, but 2 down in the 4th. They've had 1 base runner, Foster, who walked. They're playing deep. Boy, look at that Burleson, deep for Perez. He's playing a shallow left field. There's a strike. Look how deep Burleson's playing Perez, Tony.
That'll show you what kind of confidence he has in his arm. He has an excellent throwing arm. He isn't as fast as Concepcion. He's quick.
2 balls and a strike to Tony Perez. 2 out, nobody on. Three and 1 count. Now Wise asks for a new ball. Johnny Bench on deck.
They bunch Perez in the outfield. They really give him the left and right field foul lines.
Bench watching Wise intently. 3-1 pitch. He walked him. That's the 2nd walk given up by Wise. Here's Johnny Bench coming up. He grounded out to 3rd in his first trip. Perez attempted only 3 steals this year. Successful 1. Foster attempted only 3, as we told you earlier, and he's already stolen a base in this game.
Fisk has gone out to the mound now to have a conference with Wise, and we wonder, with Wise getting a little wild high, if he's not reminding him about that follow-through to come on down through.
What? Those are his pitching glasses now. He had a better record on the road, winning 12, losing 5 this year, than he did at Fenway Park, where he won 7 and lost 7. Bench said to the umpire, I want to take a look at that ball. 1-0, Boston ahead. Perez at first for the Reds, 2 down in the last of the 4th. They're back deep for Bench. He was drafted in the 2nd round when he was a teenager, and Bernie Carbo over in the Red Sox was picked ahead of him by the Reds. A strike. 0-1 to Bench. Bench is a great ambassador for the game. He's very personable, gracious to fans all over. There goes the runner. The throw down. And he's out. Safe. Perez steals. Tony Perez, only 1 steal this year. George Foster, 2 steals, are both stolen tonight.
No chance for Fizz. He might have got him had he made a perfect control, but Cooper was playing back of him. And there he goes. And you haven't seen that too often, have you, Marty?
I'll tell you, it's very, very surprising, Tony. You expect to see the likes of Griffey and Concepcion and Morgan and people like that, but certainly not Tony Perez.
That was sort of a delayed steal. I think he caught Fisk by surprise. Now they're roaring here. They were the unlikely sight of Tony Perez stealing second. 2 down. That wakes the Red fans up. And Bench hits the drive deep to left. Going, gone.
And you've got to wonder how much Wise's concentration was broken by the surprise steal from Tony Perez, but that does not detract from Johnny Bench being the kind of player he is. As we look at that dugout, he has been a man, Johnny Bench has, who has responded to pressure throughout his career. He's a man who creates excitement with a bat glove, and he even stole a few bases this year.
That was the first hit for Cincinnati, and they have the lead, 2-1. Johnny Bench's 3rd World Series homer. He hit one in 71 and 72, and now in 75. And this all came after 2 out, nobody on. When Perez walked and stole second. And Bench hit that home run over the back wall off the facing of the bleachers. George Foster puts a foul ball in the seats for strike 1. Foster walked his first time. And the Reds have 2 runs, 1 hit. The Red Sox 1 run, 3 hits. Perez's steal seemed to wake everybody up here. They're sitting back quietly. Now they're still roaring. Right, we had that roaring Fenway Park crowd in Boston. For the Red Sox, it'll be just the opposite here in Cincinnati. No balls, 2 strikes to Foster. Petrocelli guarding the third base line. That one's back out of play. 0-2 count. The slogan we've seen around the city and the area, everywhere, they have the banner hanging out in the bleachers off the 3rd tier. When you're hot, your Reds hot. Right now, the Reds are leading 2-1 in the last of the 4th. The 2-strike pitch to George Foster. Right at teasing. 1-2. As we told you earlier, home runs have hurt Rick Wise this year, and Bench's home run tagged him. The 1-2 pitch. 2-2 count. There's Concepcion hoping for a shot. Foster played straight away and deep. 2 outs, bases empty. Ground ball to Petrocelli. His throw. Plenty of time. The Reds are gone, but they lead now with 2 runs, a hit. Nobody left at the end of 4. Cincinnati 2 and Boston 1. The preceding announcement was furnished to the public service by Major League Baseball. As we suspicion, there was more to that warming up down there every inning that was obvious Evidently, Gary Nolan's arm or shoulders tightened up on him, and Pat Darcy's come on now to pitch for the Reds in the 5th. He's facing Dwight Evans. First pitch to him's a ball. Well, Gary Nolan went 4 innings. He can get no decision here. He didn't pitch the 5 innings. They left the game ahead. He allowed 1 run, 3 hits. He walked 1. He had no strikeouts. Darcy won 11 and lost 5 this year. 25 years old, born in Troy, Ohio. Lives in Tucson. A ground ball to Concepcion. Little flip throw, and Evans is out. 1 down in the 5th. Nolan was forced to leave the game because of stiffness in his neck. They've announced in the scoreboard. He must have told his manager about it in the 2nd inning, and that's why they had Darcy ready, in case they kept stiffening up on him. Evidently, the spasm wouldn't release. Pitches in there for a strike to Burleson. Darcy had 22 starts in 27 games. He had a good year. Eastwick, Darcy, McEnany, they came up with 3 good young pitchers. Foul ball by Burleson. 0-2.
They've tried to change Burleson. Look at the way he wraps that bat around his neck. They said he could not hit that way. They tried to change him in the minor leagues. His manager, Darrell Johnson, did. But he seems to get the fat part of the bat on the ball and had a fine year this year, driving in key runs.
Red Sox have 1 out, nobody on. There's a ground ball in the hole to left field. And Rick Burleson has his 5th hit of the series. He and Petroselli each have 5 hits now to lead the series in base hits. 1 out, Burleson at first, Rick Wise. The Red Sox pitcher coming up with the Reds ahead in the game, 2-1, top of the 5th. Home runs accounting for the scoring. Home run by Fisk, nobody on for the Red Sox in the 2nd. And Johnny Bench's home run with Perez aboard in the last of the 4th.
And more action now in that Cincinnati bullpen. Clay Carroll has gone on down there. They're looking for the bunt. Darrell Johnson has some options. There's Carroll.
That pitch is in for a strike to him as he bluffed it. Pete Rose charging from 3rd. Burleson at first, 1 down. They go to that bullpen in a hurry, the Reds. Bounding ball hit slowly. Cut off by Rose. Throws to 2nd. Gets the front man, Burleson. Rose actually was going backwards for that ball, toward the shortstop.
I think Rose considers that his best play. He says he has a lot of range to his left, and he proves it right here, cutting in front of Dave. That ball had 1 more hop to Concepcion. It may have been a tough play at 2nd base as Burleson got a good jump. Fine play by Pete.
Rick Wise at first base. 2 down, and Cecil Cooper, the batter. He is grounded out and flied out. He hit very well against the A's in the playoffs. He has only 1 out of 10 in the World Series.
Bench from behind the plate is really directing traffic, moving his outfielders. Foster farther to the left field line, or closer to it, rather.
High fastball to Cecil Cooper. Reds are leading 2-1, top of the 5th. Wise a short lead at first. Now it's ball 2. Perez is playing off the bag against the left-handed batter. Well, if Perez and Foster are going to try and steal, I want to wait and see what Concepcion and those fellows are going to do tonight. Are they going to run everybody?
Couple of the unlikeliest Reds, Bert.
You better believe they'll steal if Wise is in there if they get on base, because he's considered to have a very slow move to first base and to home plate.
2 balls and a strike to Cecil Cooper. Rick Wise at first, 2 down. Cooper hits a hot shot to Joe Morgan. He boots it, picks it up, and measures it off in time. That shows a poised ball player in that play. No runs, a hit, 1 left. We've gone halfway in the score, 2-1 Cincinnati. Well, we've had a tight first half of this game. Home runs, Bench, 2-run homer, Fisk, a solo homer. It's 2-1. The Reds are leading. It's my pleasure now to turn the play-by-play microphone over to Marty Brenneman, who is the voice of the Cincinnati Reds, not only here in Cincinnati, but how many stations throughout this area, Marty?
Over 100, Kurt.
You got a bigger network than we have. Let's go.
Hello again, everybody, as we go back to baseball action here in the third game of the 1975 World Series. And for the Boston Red Sox, or rather Cincinnati here in the bottom of the fifth inning, it'll be the bottom third of the batting order. Davey Concepcion, Cesar Geronimo, and pitcher Pat Darcy. Rick Wise, who pitched 3+ innings of no-hit baseball before giving up a 2-out walk in the last inning to Tony Perez, then the stolen base, and then the first Cincinnati hit, a Johnny Bench home run to left field to give the Reds their present 2-1 lead. As Wise concludes his warm-ups to catcher Carlton Fisk, Dave Concepcion will stroll plateward for his second shot at the Boston right-hander tonight. Davey is 0 for 1 at a fly ball to right field his first time up, 1 for 9 so far in this 1975 World Series. This young man has as his goal to be the best Venezuelan shortstop in the history of Major League Baseball, and well, you're talking about Tony Chico Carrasquel and Louis Aparicio as forerunners.
Talk about Aparicio, you're talking about something.
First pitch on the inside part of the plate for a taken strike. Concepcion questioning plate umpire Larry Barnett about that pitch. Guy closed out the season very, very strong. In fact, he had .340 the final month of the year and closed out the year with a 9-game hitting streak. He hits one a ton back into left center field. Looking up is Yastrzemski. It's gone. A home run. Davey Concepcion taking the grand tour as he takes Rick Wise downtown with a shot to left center field, and well, the Reds go out in front 3-1.
No matter what happens the rest of this ball game, win or lose, the headlines in the Venezuelan papers are going to be Concepcion, and that's front page. That's what happened in the championship series when he homered against Pittsburgh. You mentioned those two names, Carrasquel and Aparicio, played against both Marty and Kurt. Concepcion has more all-around ability than either of them. All round.
For the bat and the glove you're talking about.
Here's Cesar Geronimo now as Concepcion homers to begin the fifth inning for Cincinnati, and we have activity underway in the Boston Red Sox bullpen as a right-hander and a left-hander gets up to begin throwing. Geronimo bounced out to second his first time. He is ahead of the count at 2 balls and no strikes.
Right-hander Reggie Cleveland, left-hander Jim Burton.
So Darrell Johnson has seen Rick Wise give up a pair of long ones. One by Bench in the last inning with a man on, and now by Concepcion. The only 2 Cincinnati base hits up to this point have been home runs. There's a call strike. Through 4+ innings, Wise has not struck out anybody. He has walked 2. There's manager Darrell Johnson. The Boston Red Sox, he has seen his team now trailing 3-1, and that for Concepcion, his first World Series home run. Pitch backs him off the plate as Wise comes high and tight. It's ball 3. 3-1 the count to Geronimo. On deck for Cincinnati is pitcher Pat Darcy. Wise needs a strike. Geronimo a pitch away from a walk. He swings. He hits one back into deep right field. Going back is Evans, and it's out of here. Well, Kurt and Tony, Cincinnati putting on a long ball exhibition here as they have had 3 hits off Rick Wise, and all of them home runs.
And what great contributions the Latin American ball players have made to this club. Bench hit a home run today, but it was Perez who stole second base. May have rattled Wise. Concepcion and Geronimo with home runs. Darrell Johnson.
Well, in Boston, Sparky Anderson during that rain time said, "We've had a kiddie car running around here, not the big red machine. And you can't win with a half run a game, but we're going to get going and swing that bat. You don't win 108 games and hit the ball like the Reds did in Boston. They have shown tonight how they can swing the bat."
Well, surprisingly, Darrell Johnson has elected to leave Rick Wise in the ball game, although he keeps the 2 pitchers warming up down in the Boston bullpen.
Jim Burton, the left-hander. Reggie Cleveland, the right-hander.
So back-to-back home runs in the Cincinnati fifth inning by Davey Concepcion and Cesar Geronimo, the 7 and 8 batters in the Reds lineup. Here's Darcy up for the first time. He takes a healthy cut and does not get it.
Those are not ordinary 7 and 8 batters, and you know it, Marty.
I'll agree with that, Tony. Pat Darcy up for his first time. He came on in relief of Gary Nolan, and quickly behind to Rick Wise as pitcher faces pitcher, 2 strikes. The crowd here at Riverfront Stadium, and they've got standing room only here tonight, still buzzing on the back-to-backers by the Cincinnati Reds. Very quiet, subdued crowd the first 3+ innings. The Reds were not doing anything to speak of, but all of a sudden they come to life and lead 4-1 here. Here's strike 3 call as Larry Barnett emphatically calls Pat Darcy out on strikes, and that's the first of the game for Rick Wise.
Rick Wise is facing a dubious record that I know he doesn't want to tie. The record for the most home runs allowed by a pitcher in a World Series game is 4. Charlie Root gave up 4 in 32 for the Cubs. Gene Thompson for the Reds in 39, and Dick Hughes with the Cards in 1967. Wise has allowed 3 in this game.
Here's a man they refer to as Charlie Hustle. Pete Rose up for the 3rd time, and he bluffs a bunt, and it's strike 1 to him as he turns around and comes back questioning Larry Barnett. The Red Sox have out-hit the Reds 4-3, but the Reds have had 3 homers. 2-run shot in the 4th by Perez, and a bench rather, and back-to-back homers in the 5th inning by Concepcion and Geronimo. Strike 2 is called to Rose. Jim Burton and Reggie Cleveland continuing to heat up in the Boston Red Sox bullpen. The speckled Rick Wise looking into Carlton Fisk to get the sign. Rose goes the other way with a pitch, but hits a high, towering foul ball well back in the seats along the left field line.
You know, Marty, every year we get new fans watching the World Series. I imagine some of them are saying, has this ever happened before? 2 players, one right behind the other, hit home runs. This happened 7 times before.
7 times in World Series competition, back-to-back home runs. Well, maybe Tony was involved.
Not me, boy.
Well, the crowd getting on Rick Wise a little bit. Things not going at all well for him as he drops a throwback from Carlton Fisk. Throws it a hold and holding it 2 strikes. On deck for Cincinnati is right fielder Ken Griffey. One ball and 2 strikes on the waiting Rose. That one is hit hard into right center. Lynn racing back, still on the run. He cannot play it. Rose coming to second as Dwight Evans picks up the ball, and Rose will go in standing up with a 3-base hit. Well, the extra base hits are ringing out off the bats of the Cincinnati Reds.
And we saw what Sparky Anderson prophesied. He said if they play shallow like they did in Fenway, they're going to get hurt. The ball was hit very hard, a line drive, and watch Charlie Hustle, as you just called him, hustle right from home plate.
He hit the ball very well, Tony, and as you pointed out, you simply cannot play shallow in this ballpark. Freddie Lynn playing shallow, and a deep blast to center by Pete Rose, and actually a stand-up 3-base hit for him. Well, Darrell Johnson is back to the Riverfront Stadium mound for the 2nd time in the inning, and that means that is going to be all for Rick Wise. The left-hander Jim Burton is going to come on out of the Red Sox bullpen as he makes a slow walk from the visitors' bullpen here at Riverfront Stadium along the left field line. So there's a break in the action here at Cincinnati. The score, the Reds 4, the Boston Red Sox 1.